It's the turn of the century, the time of moving pictures, electric lights, machines that did the work of 10 men. Anything was possible. We didn't know what we couldn't do, so we did it. And there was an incredible sense of confidence that we were at the start of something amazing, something life and world-changing.
You know, like most Americans at the dawn of a new century, Harvey Firestone was fresh from the farm, and he was drawn to the big city by its tireless energy. So he ventured out from the family homestead in Columbiana, Ohio, and he went to Detroit. That's where he hitched his dreams to a horse and buggy. The year was 1895, and Henry Ford was just building his first automobile. Now, he was using bicycle tires, but his car weighed 500 pounds. It was really too much for those tires. So, Ford visited a local horse and buggy shop in hopes of securing heavier, solid rubber tires. There he met an enterprising young sales agent who told him, "Hey, I've got something even better, air-filled pneumatic tires." That young sales agent was Harvey S. Firestone. And on that seemingly ordinary day, an extraordinary friendship began that would mold generations to come.
The Depression of 1894 and 5 put me into the rubber tire business. I was a salesman for a large buggy company in Detroit, and they went into the hands of a receiver early in 1896. I had driven a buggy equipped with rubber tires and was fully convinced that when the people knew the advantages of rubber tires, all buggies and carriages would be so equipped. And we started a tire shop in Chicago. It was called the Firestone Rubber Tire Company. But this little shop in Chicago was the start of making the mental picture I had that all buggies and carriages would someday be equipped with rubber tires.
Firestone started pioneering his own discoveries in 1904 with a straight-side pneumatic tire. Now that could be easily changed with a wrench. This simple convenience was really welcomed by a public that had been forced to pry damaged tires from wheels with a crowbar and a lot of muscle. Things got even easier with Firestone's demountable rims and the first non-skid treaded tire. Now, by 1910, Firestone had sold 2.4 million tires as the exclusive tire supplier for the Ford Model T. By 1920, more than 37 million Firestone tires had been sold. Now, that same year, Firestone introduced the revolutionary gum dip tire. Gum dipping saturated a tire's cords with rubber, and that dramatically increased the tire's life and the durability. Next up, the introduction of Firestone balloon tires, and that greatly reduced the air pressure needed to fully inflate a tire. Balloon tires improved the car's handling, and it absorbed more of the road shock, and that made the driving experience far more comfortable. Now, these two innovations more than doubled the life of tires, and it turned the driving experience from a drudge into a wonder. But Harvey wasn't finished. In fact, he was just getting started.
In 1929, we laid a program to manufacture lines of tires. This program also included the establishing of one-stop service stores and the manufacture of additional lines of product such as batteries, spark plugs, brake lining, and other auto supplies. This has placed our dealers and ourselves in a more advantageous position to better serve.
Now, for Harvey, it was more than just selling tires, though. It was about helping people with a simple one-stop solution to take care of all their automobile needs. And each visit evolved into an opportunity to educate and inform consumers about Firestone's many new products. Harvey's program turned Firestone into one of America's first retailers. And over the next 20 years, well, the retail store operations would grow to include 725 company-owned stores and more than 65,000 independent dealers worldwide. Today, the company owns and operates more than 2,200 tire and vehicle service centers across the country, and it is the largest company-owned automotive service retailer in the world. Harvey's insightful improvements weren't confined to just tire-making technology and auto service centers. He was as forward-thinking when it came to protecting his business's most important asset, its people. People like this. This is the first Firestone office employee group. Now, this photo was taken in 1903. And wouldn't it have been nice to be able to invest in this group? Man, Firestone workers were the first in the industry to work an 8-hour day. Now, he even made sure that they were able to make as much pay in their 8-hour day as they did when they were working before, when they were working 10 to 12 hours. Think about that. People who worked for Firestone received medical and dental care. They also got free life insurance. The company helped workers buy homes, and they gave them use of the company's $350,000 Firestone clubhouse. Also the library, the swimming pool, and the restaurant. Firestone's far-reaching benefits were way ahead of their time. And his treatment of people, it was in keeping with his fiercely held belief that the growth and development of people is the highest calling of leadership. Harvey also said that thought, not money, that's the real business capital. And that was something that sparked within him the unique ability to bring his ideas to life. Ideas that were fueled by a decade of journeys taken with some of his closest friends. Think about this for a minute. Think about Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Jane Goodall spending some time around a campfire, and they're talking about innovation, technology, business, and the environment. And then you've got some notion of what these journeys were really like. Meet the vagabonds: Harvey Firestone, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and John Burroughs. Their camping trips, they changed the world.
In the days of my youth, I had the rare privilege of associating with Mr. Edison, especially on the camping trips which he took with John Burroughs, Henry Ford, and my father. In the evening, we would all sit around the campfire. Lingering in front of the failing fire, I knew that I was in the presence of a very great man. It seemed to me, standing on the threshold of life, that Mr. Edison knew just about everything about everything. The Edison I knew was a man who was kind, thoughtful, humorous, and humble. A man it was my privilege to have known as a friend.
Isn't it amazing to realize that some of the conversations that helped mold the Industrial Revolution took place on a camping trip? I mean, it's almost as amazing as just watching those same camping trips a century later on film. You know, one of the reasons that we're actually able to relive these milestones tonight is because Harvey understood that he and his friends were making history. And so he went to great lengths to preserve each moment so that we could be enlightened by the works of the past, so we could seize the promise of the future. Take a look.
What do you think of the Einstein theory?
I don't think anything of Einstein's theory because I can't understand it.
What do you think of the sound pictures of today?
That's what I think of the talking picture.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I never heard one.
Wow. How in the world does a man who can't hear invent pictures with sound? You know, Edison once said that the advantage of being deaf was that it helped him to concentrate on his work. Judging from his work, I think he was right. Of course, we don't know everything that was actually shared during the camping trips, but they certainly inspired America's imagination. And Firestone's vision was broadened as the company would continue to encompass more than just tires.
Wherever wheels are turning, no matter what the load, the name that's known is Firestone. Where the rubber meets the road, if you're carrying steel or tilling the soil, gonna visit grandma or looking for oil, for the youngest driver and the real old pro, for a jet to land or a lawn to mow, for moving mountains or for stalking geese, following a golf ball or keeping the peace. Wherever wheels are turning, no matter what the load, the name that's known is Firestone. Where the rubber meets the road.
Firestone, your symbol of quality and service.
You know, during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, the Firestone brand quickly grew to stand for more than tires and technology. It also became a symbol of service and society. From tire treads to women's lingerie, Firestone never tired of innovation and continued to expand its product line. It also held to a philosophy that stretched beyond the company to include the greater good of the whole world. From promoting more energy-efficient modes of transportation to improving the nation's roadways. But before Firestone could actually move on down the road, the company would have to build a few.
Shortly after the turn of the century, my father became a leader in the Good Roads movement. Later in 1918, he pioneered the ship-by-truck movement, which gave impetus to the development of the trucking industry. These two movements were instrumental in arousing the American people to the full possibilities of automotive vehicles and to the necessity of providing an adequate system of streets and highways over which these vehicles could operate swiftly, comfortably, and safely.
Firestone's support of the Good Roads movement and its ship-by-truck campaign, well, it not only helped move supplies, it also moved road conditions and the importance of trucks to the forefront of American concerns. And it inspired a Firestone friend, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, to pave the way for the interstate system in America. And that's made us the most mobile nation in the world. In today's age of online shopping and an on-demand economy, the shipping and trucking industry is in many ways the lifeblood of the American economy. And somewhere Harvey Firestone is beaming proudly because durable, reliable Firestone truck tires keeps that industry moving even today. During the post-war era, America was booming, and Firestone quickly turned to making rubber flooring, upholstery, mattresses, tabletops, wall coverings, drapes, weather stripping, insulation, golf balls and gun butts, toys and television cabinets, handbags and hats, stockings and suspenders, pajamas and panties to serve the GIs and their families on their return home. It's a lot. Firestone gave rise to so many rubber and plastic polymers in the post-war world that Harvey Firestone Jr. was inspired to say, well, today we can do almost anything with rubber except eat it. Now, this type of thinking inspired Firestone in the 1940s to develop the very first pneumatic suspension device. It was the Firestone Air Spring, and create a company called Firestone Industrial Products. Today, they are the #1 manufacturer of air springs for the global marketplace. Firestone Building Products also evolved out of the company's success with polymer technology and is now a global leader in commercial building performance solutions. So as you can see, the brand became far more than just tires. It became part of Americana. It rose above being physical products that made the world accessible to everyone. Firestone now served the people by bringing the world to them through radio and television. From the voice of Firestone to the voice that spoke for America.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us this evening Mr. Harvey S. Firestone, Jr., chairman of the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company. Mr. Firestone.
This evening, the Firestone organization presents the first in a new series of telecasts which will enable you to see for yourself the dramatic highlights of history in the making and to understand their importance. And now, we invite you to be an eyewitness to history.
This is the Vatican, Sunday, December the 6th, the day President Eisenhower flies east from Rome to Asia to declare in person our interest in peace, to establish perhaps a more intimate relationship between the United States and that part of the world.
And that's the way it was. In this exploration of all things Firestone, from bathing suits to Beethoven symphonies, from roofing material to Renaissance melodies, we mustn't forget what brought us here: tires. And through the years, the variety of Firestone tires has expanded to serve a growing number and variety of industries. With tires that range from 22 inches all the way up to 13 feet tall, from several pounds to several tons in weight. But of all the industries served, the one perhaps nearest and dearest to the historical heart of Firestone is the tractor tire. The young Harvey Firestone left the farm to seek his fortune in the city, but he was always concerned with the fortunes of the farmer.
And then, from a farm in Columbiana County in Ohio, came a man who was destined to become one of the world's great industrial leaders. But he was raised a farmer, and throughout his long and useful life, he continued to operate his own farm. He remained close to the soil. He was always interested in the farmer's problems. And to the distinguished list of men who have made modern farming possible, Harvey S. Firestone added his name. For to Mr. Firestone goes the credit for developing the first all-rubber traction tire for tractors and farm implements.
Well, today, Firestone farm tires are known around the world as a leading tire brand for the agricultural industry. In fact, Firestone maintains the only research facility in the world dedicated entirely to testing innovations in agricultural tires. This 400-acre test center is located in Columbiana, Ohio. It's a place where Harvey Firestone grew up as a fourth-generation farmer. And that's where he would return to test the tractor tires that he crafted. What do they say? What goes around, comes around. Wow. You know, it's no coincidence that many of the great technological innovations of the 20th and 21st centuries revolve around speed. What do we got? Rocket ships, microchips, streaming entertainment, cell phones. So it's only natural that auto racing is a leading American spectator sport, and that very early on, well, Firestone had a powerful presence on the track. From the beginning, Firestone understood that motorsports was the ultimate proving ground where months of ordinary wear are crowded into just a few hours of hard-fought laps. He understood the racetrack, unlike traditional testing grounds, offers the distinct advantage of showcasing the product before a grandstand full of auto enthusiasts. Such was the case with Barney Oldfield, one of America's earliest race car drivers, who fondly referred to his Firestone tires as his only life insurance. Now, no other race or racetrack has proven as important for the quality and success of Firestone tires than the Indianapolis 500 and the famed Brickyard. Firestone was there for that very first race in 1911 when driver Ray Haroon won the inaugural 500-mile race aboard his Marmon Wasp, outfitted, of course, with Firestone tires. In 1928, Lou Meyer won the legendary race and became an icon himself as the first driver to drink milk in Victory Circle. Meyer would go on to be Firestone's first three-time Indy 500 winner.
That famous checkered flag is ready, and he's over. Lou Meyer, ladies and gentlemen, Lou Meyer has won the race. He's down the enclosure now, surrounded by cameras and reporters. Somebody's given him a bottle of milk. Well, that race would make anybody thirsty.
It was a great race, and I'm certainly glad it's over. My motor functioned perfectly throughout the race, and I also want to pay tribute to these great Firestone tires who enabled me to win this 500-mile race. I'm now going to send Mr. Firestone a telegram on achievement of his tires.
Firestone would also help propel Indianapolis native Wilbur Shaw to 3 Indy 500 wins.
Here comes Wilbur Shaw on his fine old sprint. There goes the flag. Wilbur Shaw wins.
There's one thing that's for certain, and that is that the real winners will be the car owners of America. Of course, the Indianapolis race is one of the most exciting events of the year, but it's more than just a spectacle of speed. And it's not just a stunt. On the contrary, the Speedway is really a great outdoor testing laboratory where the newest developments and discoveries can be quickly tested under conditions far more exacting than the average car owner will ever have to face. And I can truthfully say that I don't know of one leading driver who would use any tire at Indianapolis other than a Firestone.
There was a young rookie who appeared on the scene in 1965, and over the next 4 decades, he would go on to win dozens of races, including the Indy 500, the Daytona 500, and the Formula One World Championship, and then be named the driver of the century, Mr. Mario Andretti.
I've been dreaming about coming to this place since I was 13 years old back in Italy. That's when I started racing, and well, now I'm here, and it certainly is a realization of a dream, and I'm qualified. Now, come race day, I'll be looking for the short way around.
From 1920 through 1966, Firestone tires set every Indy 500 record imaginable. In fact, during that remarkable 47-year period, it failed to do just one thing: lose a race. Of course, Firestone helped drivers in other arenas and races to perform at their peak. Still, the Indy 500 was the undisputed gem of the racing world. And Firestone would go back to win at the Brickyard again and again and again. Then in 1974, after 48 Indy wins, Firestone made the decision to leave major open-wheel competition. So for 20 long years, Firestone was absent from Indy. But in 1988, after Firestone Tire and Rubber Company merged with Bridgestone, the decision to bring Firestone tires back into racing was made, and a return course was charted. After years of testing and preparation, Firestone returned to the greatest spectacle of racing in 1995. The following year, it was Buddy Lazier and Arie Luyendyk who helped put the Firestone stamp back on the Indy 500. Lazier drove Firestone back into victory lane at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but it was Luyendyk's name that was blazoned across all the headlines leading into the race. Why? Well, you see, the Dutchman set the fastest single lap recorded in Indianapolis Motor Speedway history, 239.260 miles per hour. And in qualifying, He set the 4-lap record with an average speed of 236.986 miles per hour. And yes, both those records still stand today. Since 2000, 10 different drivers from 5 different countries using 4 different types of engines have won the Indy 500. And they all had one thing in common. Yep, Firestone tires. So, here we are today. More than 100 years have now passed, and the legend of Firestone continues. I mean, it really is amazing how Harvey truly understood the significance of a tire, and how one simple thing could impact so many industries and really the world. Harvey Firestone saw things in a different light, and he built something during a time in history when it would have been very easy to give up. But Harvey's dedication to business and family always kept him driving forward.
I've devoted my life to my family and to my business. I have met and surmounted many difficulties, having passed through 3 or 4 worldwide depressions. And I've found that if we have the right attitude and courage, we can often turn our difficult problems into advantages. But we must not let these difficulties discourage us and build for ourselves imaginary troubles that are difficult to overcome.
Again, Harvey had it right. Sure, there have been ups and downs along the way, but that's what it means to be time-tested, and Firestone is a brand that has stood the test of time. Ultimately, any challenges have made Firestone stronger than ever, a trusted global tire brand that is built to last, serving the people of the world both on the road and off. And still, the wheels are turning at Firestone, fueling the race to dream more, to dare more, and to do more. Ensuring the best today is still better tomorrow. Thanks, Harvey.